Instagram came in when we were in maybe year 7 or year 8. It was very different in the early days. Sure enough, by the time we were year 10, year 11, year 12, Instagram was, as we know it today, a highlight reel of these quote unquote perfect bodies, these extremely restrictive diets, all these things that I just flash back and remember we were exposed to made it really hard to accept the body that I was in. It wasn't until I was blessed with the full education of a degree in nutrition to realise, wow, it's all total rubbish.
All right, well, welcome back to the We Are Sage podcast, a space for real conversations, practical advice, and that sense of empowerment you've been searching for. In today's episode, we're diving into things that affect all of us as women, nutrition, health, hormones, energy, and everything in between. We have a very special guest on today who will help you build a positive relationship with your body and inspire you to become the best version of yourself. So joining us is clinical nutritionist, lecturer, speaker, teen health expert, and a very, very good friend of mine, Lani Finau.
Thank you for having me, Chelsea. I'm so grateful to be here.
So excited to have you on. You're my first guest, and I'm just so excited to get into the nitty-gritty of this. I think our listeners are going to take so much away from this chat. And yeah, I think I'll tell them a little bit more about you. You're all about breaking diet myths, fueling your body with intention, and making health simple, not overwhelming. Yeah, Am I right in saying that?
Nail on the head. I just think in a world of so much over information about health, the more we can bring it right back to simplicity is just better and easier. And also the younger we can get this information out there to people, you know, young teens, kids, young adults, just they're going to set themselves up for a really healthier future long term.
Yeah, unbelievable. And I think a little bit of backstory, I want to tell the listeners why I asked you to be my first guest today. Obviously, it's very exciting and all that for us, but above all, like, you are a great person, a kind person, you're driven and dedicated to what you do, and you share our passion in educating and inspiring young girls, you know, to create a better future for them. Lani and I we go back probably, 12 years? We've been friends for so long.
Well over a decade, that's for sure.
We grew up, we played netball together since we were about 12, and here we are, and I look at you and I'm just like, you are the epitome of what young girls should be looking up to in terms of health, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. Like, you are just such a good role model. And to give our listeners a little bit of insight into who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, growing up. Who is Lani Finau?
Yeah, Chel, it's truly, first of all, an honour to come on as your first guest. And I think we are so aligned on those things. So yeah, to walk it back, I fell in love with health very much from our netball journey. You know, that was really foundational for me as not just a young female at the time, but definitely the professional that I am today, because I think sport gives teens and children the structure they need to get through a really chaotic period. And, you know, being a teenager, everything is uncertain. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I'm interested in. I don't know what I want to do when I'm older. And sport gave me that kind of structure to my week, my day, and a bit of a purpose. And beyond that, it gave me beautiful friends like you. And I think when you get lucky to have that community of being a netball community of women around you, it really helped me grow and understand that when you work really hard towards something, you actually can achieve it, you know, and you also have to experience the ups and downs with having a goal of something that you're really interested in. And I think that helped me set myself up for that understanding of, you know, you're going to have crack at things that sometimes you'll make it and it'll be awesome and you'll be really proud of yourself and that will be the team you want to get into or the position you want to play. And then other times you're not going to make the team and your friends will make the team, and you have to cop that. And the resilience that is built from that really instilled in me that, like, you can do anything, but also you can get through hard things. And I pretty much describe it as that passion for netball was so all-consuming at the time in a positive way that I was like, okay, well, what can I do to get better? Oh, I can probably take care of my health and my nutrition, you know, that thing I do every day, eat.
Yeah.
And, you know, the story tells itself. Eventually, I obviously fell more in love with the health and food than the netball, but both the passions are still there. And then, yeah, here I am today, I guess.
And on that, what was there a specific moment that sparked your passion to get into nutrition? Like, obviously we go through school, we think we want to do something when we're growing up, but was there a specific moment that you said, this is the path I want to take?
Yeah, totally. I think it was probably the first time I actually cared about what I put in my mouth was a very specific moment. I was 11. You were probably at this netball camp. It was one that was run by some, players at the time were in the Diamonds and the Swifts. And so very inspirational for young little netballers. And they, at the end of it, picked, I haven't thought about this for a while actually. They picked who can win a one-on-one training session with this particular netballer at the end of the camp. And I had only just started playing. There was like 100 kids there, and she picked me. And I just remember thinking like, what on earth? Well, I don't even know how to catch this ball. But it was enough of like another woman looking at you and being like, here you go, I believe in you. Like, let's have a crack at this thing. Congrats. Here's your one-on-one 30-minute session. Like, let's go. And it was honestly that day, Chell, that I got home and I was like, wait, I care about this. This is cool. I'm ready to give it my all. And I remember waking up the next day and being like, no, Mum, don't put the cupcake in my lunchbox. I want to know like what it's going to make, what's a bit of a healthier option, like what can I have? And obviously she's like, I don't know, maybe this chicken sandwich instead. How about that? I was like, done, give me the chicken sandwich, And it was that defining moment of, okay, let's do this, let's learn, let's educate ourselves on what you can do to eat better. And I honestly think it was like in that moment that the food probably overtook the netball. And that was right at the start, but it took me years to sort of process that you can actually do this as a job.
Oh, absolutely. And when you were a teen or in your early 20s, did you have your own struggles, in health or body image or things like that has shaped the way that you now work with young girls?
Totally. I reckon the years of, 16 to 18, they were the absolute hardest. We were at a really interesting time when I remember Instagram came in when we were in maybe year 7 or year 8. And it was very different in the early days. But then sure enough, by the time we were year 10, year 11, year 12, Instagram was, as we know it today, a highlight reel of these quote unquote perfect bodies, these extremely restrictive diets that look really fancy, skinny me tea, like all these things that I just flash back and remember we were exposed to every single day, made it really hard to accept the body that I was in, and that was painful and also very confusing because there was also no one around me to say, don't listen to that. That's actually totally wrong and not the type of nourishing advice you need as a teen, but it was what we grew up with. It was what we knew. And I think it wasn't until I started studying that I started to unravel some of those years of knowledge that had been taught to me of, don't eat this, do eat that, this is important, you should look this way. It wasn't until I was blessed with the full education of a degree in nutrition to realize, wow, it's all total rubbish, you know? So yeah, I'd say then.
Yeah. And there's not much has really changed since when we were teenagers to teenagers now. If anything, there's more noise on social media. There's more information and misleading things about, diets, weight loss trends, what you should or shouldn't be eating in a day. And so many young girls fall victim to that. Is there a particular, myth that you see young girls falling for almost every day online?
Oh, yeah. I think just that it's the classic one that's been a while, but if they eat less, they will be more beautiful, their ideal state of beautiful. And I actually cannot harp on enough how much it is so important that we're eating to what we require, especially eating carbohydrates, which is always the first thing that girls cut out. And, you think that because we have more access to information, the good and the bad, that we might be able to learn that, actually these things probably aren't as restrictive, but those messages are loud and they're very clear and they still cut through all the noise. And yeah, totally. I reckon 80% of the girls I've spoken to have restricted their food at some point or another pretty significantly.
Yeah. And is there a way of kind of determining what advice to actually listen to and what not to listen to for young girls?
Great. That's an excellent question. I would say I believe strongly that social media and media in general can be such a powerful way to get information quick at your fingertips. Yeah. but make sure it's from somebody that is qualified, which again, even that is not a done deal these days of, just because they've got this degree doesn't mean what they're saying is totally ethical or totally right for me. But it's a good first step of, if you're going to follow someone on social media, check their bio, check their qualifications, check their experience so far of why they feel qualified to talk about this thing.
Yeah.
If it's just a TikTok page of another young girl who's resharing other videos and things of misinformation with nothing to back her, probably go find a more creditable source.
Yeah. And on that, how do you suggest that young women build a positive and a guilt-free relationship with food and with their bodies?
Yeah. The first thing I always do in clinic is bring it back to a more visual approach to food. I think turning food and how we eat into a numbers game is very damaging, and it's also exactly opposite of what it's meant to be there for.
Yeah.
Food is meant to be social. Food is meant to be enjoyed. Food is meant to be interactive, and when you look at a plate of food and are just counting it for the exact grams of protein, the exact number of calories or kilojoules, and the exact amount of carbohydrates in it to its number form without even taking into account what that our item of food is, that's the really damaging part. And so I talk a lot about the plate model in clinic, and I have this cute little graphic that shows them that's here's all the things that you should go and eat, here's what you can have and here's how much of it to aim for, instead of don't go above that specific number because that's bad,
Yeah.
And I think that can really help that first step, just lower the barrier into a healthier approach and relationship to food.
Yeah. I think it's really hard. And you know what? I was probably guilty of it when I was growing up too. Similar to you, we all had, body image issues. We saw other girls at the beach. We're like, why doesn't my body look like that in a bikini? Whatever it was. And I really struggled to find that balance between deprivation and moderation. Yes. And navigate, what foods I can eat. I'm a sweet tooth. I love my chocolate, but there was a time where I was my whole family was having chocolate, after dinner, watching a movie, and I was like, no, I can't have the chocolate. And I look back and I'm like, oh, if only she knew that she could have. Totally. Because she trains so hard for a sport. She, eats healthy most of the time. But finding that balance was really difficult for a teen. Did you have any advice to girls trying to find that balance?
No, totally. It's such a universal experience, I would say, of especially at that age of everyone's doing this thing, but I'm not allowed to. And that's a self-inflicted rule I've put on myself for that moment. But the advice is truly just what you do 20% of the time, 10%, even 30% does not impact what you're doing the majority of the 70 to 80% of the time. And I learned that over and over again in uni on, a chemical and very biological level of the body, that no, it's not about what happens that one-off time once a week or that one afternoon or whatever it is. Your body is eating and doing its thing every single day, and it does those processes so frequently that if what you're feeding it 80% of the time is balanced and healthy and nourishing, you can enjoy those chocolates. And when you do enjoy them guilt-free, because I think that's the other part that, you really highlighted there, that so many girls will resonate with, of guilt about, well, even if you had decided, fine, I'll have the chocolate, you would have sat there and been so resentful towards it and made yourself feel so guilty when you should just really enjoy it,
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to touch on, you've created the Think Well project, your baby, I'm sure. It's an evidence-based program designed to help teens fuel, focus, and feel good. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, it is my baby at the moment. So basically my demographic that I work heavily with is teens and adolescents and kids. And I got to a point of, I've had the privilege of doing many talks to children or young adults and teenagers at schools or at sporting clubs or just other holiday workshops and type thing, where you realize kids are like sponges. They are so ready to learn all of the information they need to set themselves up for success in future. And it is all well and good for me to do these sort of tailored one-off nutrition workshops with certain demographics of kids. But I was becoming more and more of the understanding that, no, this is not information that should just go to the 20 kids that came to this workshop or the 50 kids at that netball association. This is information that every single child needs to hear if we want to do anything about the ever-growing health problems that our world is facing, especially the ever-growing childhood obesity rates that are rising rapidly. It starts with education. And so I needed to create something where it is a done, little, neatly tied in a bow, 1 hour workshop that hits all the heavy hitters and pointers that are important for kids in a way that's interactive and in a way that they're actually going to sit there and care about what I'm saying. So yeah, that's basically what it is.
Awesome. And how much does what we eat actually affect our moods and our mental health, especially for young women? You know, there's hormones in the play. How does what we eat affect that?
Oh, completely. 100% affects it. Basically, it is on so many different levels. But first of all, like the actual food we are eating, there are some foods like carbohydrates and sugars and things like that that help us feel good. Like they have a dopamine reaction in the body. They help increase your serotonin, your feel-good hormones. And that is from the compounds within that particular food, you know? And so when you think about, oh, well, what's the first thing women cut out? It's carbohydrates. Well, no wonder they're feeling so down and upset and quite frustrated with themselves because they are not getting that kind of high, that rush of feel-good hormones that come from eating that particular food. And that's just one type. But on a more internal level, your gut health and how your microbiome is built and basically the diversity of it, it helps you actually produce neurotransmitters, which are your mood regulators, your feel-good hormones, all of them. 70% or 90% of your, 70, 90, I should know that stat, but one of the higher ones, of your neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. And so your gut is so heavily affected by what you eat that it's kind of completely understandable how people don't feel so great when they're not eating so well and they've got a lot of gut inflammation and they are not producing these neurotransmitters as well as they could be.
Yeah. So our gut health could decline if we're eating more like packaged food, high in sugar, all that kind of stuff?
Yep, absolutely. Basically anything that drives inflammation in the body, which is highly processed, highly refined foods, because they're rich in these highly processed fats, which are reactive in the body. They are unstable in the body and they drive this inflammatory response. But then equally, there are other things like dairy or poor quality gluten and things like that, which people will react to if they have an intolerance, which a lot of people do. It's not to say that it's that particular nutrient that's the problem. It's just that, as a matter of fact, a lot of people don't tolerate the dairy and the gluten and the highly inflammatory foods that we have in our world today. And so then their lining of their gut is just so inflamed and they're sort of not absorbing or producing things as needed.
Yeah. And what are some simple daily habits that, you know, can make a big difference to our energy levels and our focus and things like that, or even just our overall health?
Yeah. The first one is eat breakfast. Eat breakfast like a king, like they always say, or like we should say, like a queen. It should be your largest meal of the day and it should have a heavy hit of protein in it because that helps really stabilize your blood sugar for the rest of the day. So it is scientifically shown, research, many studies to show that when you have a high protein breakfast, your cravings across the rest of the day lower. And we all know it. Like on those days that I have no brekkie and I have just a coffee and I skip lunch because I'm too busy and then I'm like 3 p.m, I need sugar, I need sweet. That is because you're having those cravings and you're having a dysregulated blood sugar response. So eat your brekkie. That would be my first thing. And also don't have your coffee on an empty stomach. I can't harp on about that one enough, but caffeine is just this cortisol spiker in the body. And the moment that happens, women are really thrown off for the rest of the day. So it's not about don't have coffee ever. It's just have it after eating something. Anything will do, but ideally something rich in protein or healthy fats.
Yeah. And on the protein for breakfast, I'm very big on eating brekkie of a morning. I wake up hungry. So I don't understand the people that don't have breakfast. But what are some examples of some foods that they can eat high or rich in protein for breakfast?
Yeah. So you need around 30 to 45 grams of protein per meal, which is a lot. For context, one egg has like 6 grams of protein.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And that's the first harped on about meal. But before I go into like more specific protein-rich brekkies, the first thing I always like to highlight when talking about breakfast is that it is a totally man-made construct that we've sort of made over the years, that we can't have dinner type foods for breakfast, and I don't know why or when that happened, that we only have basically dessert meals for breakfast, these highly processed, refined, sugary cereals, as opposed to, why can't I have the steak and veg that I had for dinner last night? It's just this interesting, mindset that we all have. So that's my first thing of, if you don't mind savory food, have your dinner or your lunch type food at breakfast, go for it. But your more traditional brekkies, there are really beautiful high protein breads these days. Bergen do a wonderful linseed and wholemeal one, and they've got like 10 grams of protein per slice. So if you were having 2 slices of that and then 2 eggs and some cottage cheese on that with whatever veg you want, excellent high protein dish. Cottage cheese is a great one. You can add it to savory or sweet things. So you could have it with like fruit and nut and seed mix if you also want a semi-high protein brekkie. Chia seeds, don't ever underestimate the power of nuts and seeds for their fat and protein content. Adding them to, your oatmeal mix for a brekkie is awesome, and Greek yogurt and things like that are very high in protein. But without, all just the food first types of approaches, I do always like to say that it is quite hard for women to hit their protein targets. Like, that is no easy feat to get 30 to 45 grams at every meal. And I'm really quite a proponent for supplementation as needed to help you get there, whilst you're sort of building up your tolerance for the amount of food you can probably intake in a day.
Yeah.
You can add things like collagen and good quality proteins to your brekkie that you're already having. If you love your cereal that you're currently having, you just can't bear to switch it out, add a protein powder to your milk, and at least have a really high protein milk with your cereal as you're transitioning into something maybe more whole food based over time.
Awesome. And another topic I kind of wanted to touch on was, one thing that affects us all as women is our menstrual cycle, our hormones. We go through waves in terms of energy levels and things like that. How can our energy and nutrition needs kind of change based on our cycle?
Yeah. Oh, it's a big one. And I think what is really interesting is that every single woman's cycle is so different. Some people's luteal phase goes for a certain amount of time, other people's goes for double that, that we are all not that textbook 28-day cycle. But what it is a lot to do with is in the lead up to your period, when you are getting the PMS symptoms, a lot of women get that brain fog, irritability, cramping, back pain and abdominal pain. That is the body giving you the signal of, hey, this thing's coming and I'm really not feeling great. And nourishment and patience is so key at that point. It can get quite complex when you're going into the nitty gritty of which hormone's higher at this point and which phase should I care more about. And I just explain it really simply of, your body knows when it needs nourishment. That is when it's in that PMS stage of feeling so irritable and not well, that you need gentle exercise. You need to eat more at that time period. You need to be mindful of your iron levels. Women that are on iron supplements, often they can get away with only having a supplement every second day or so. But in that 5-day lead up to when they're about to start their bleed for that period, I get them on their iron every single day, because you've got to prepare yourself for the fact that you're about to lose a decent amount of blood. Coming back to the more nourishment time, it is just the point when I do not recommend like high intensity exercise that 3 to 5 days before your period. You just need gentle yoga, gentle Pilates, breath work, go for a walk and eat the foods that you are craving, honor those cravings, and have a little bit more than needed to really protect yourself at that time point.
Yeah. I think, we're all probably guilty of it. If we're training really hard and eating really well, when our period comes around, we find that we're feeling guilty for having those cravings and for wanting to have a day in bed. How can girls kind of navigate that and give themselves that, patience and that kindness that they need during that time?
Yeah, totally. I think it comes down to really understanding that our bodies are so amazing. Like, it is unbelievable that every single month our body prepares itself for the whole menstrual cycle and goes through that phase. And that is no easy feat, you know? And I think if you really just take a step back and honor the fact that, hey, genuinely, the human population wouldn't be surviving right now if my body couldn't do this. So if I need to take one day back out of my month to protect and care for my energy, I absolutely deserve it. And also coming back to that, it plays into that 80-20% of what you do 20% of the time is not going to impact the 80. You know, what you do that little portion of the month when you just need space and you need to say no to social events and you need to go easier on yourself on deadlines that you might be running towards. And just, you know, there's those days when I tell them, like, we're just getting through today. You know, we're not trying to achieve anything crazy. We are just doing what we need to do at a bare minimum and getting into bed and being warm and snuggly and having our heat pack on and our chocolate, you know, and that's okay.
Put on Netflix, watch a show, feel good, comfort show.
Exactly. So, yeah.
And look, this may have been a bit of an information overload for listeners. Like, it could have been a lot all at once. Now, I want to bring it back. For those people who are beginning on their nutrition journey or don't know where to begin, what is, a first step that they can take to prioritize their health? What's one thing that you would say, start here and go from there?
Yeah, I am inclined to stick with what we said earlier of have a protein-rich breakfast and use that plate model that I spoke about earlier. So at least half of your plate or a third of your plate, to have a good source of protein on it. If you can do that, you're really going to be setting yourself and your hormones up for a lot more stability across the day. And it's just an easy touch point because most people listening probably are skipping brekkie at the moment or having something that's not fueling them as much.
Yeah. Well, it's now time for our Rise and Bloom segment where you get to set a little challenge for our We Are Sage community, whether it be a daily habit, a wellness practice, something that they can introduce into their daily routine that is going to in some way enhance their life. So that said, what is your challenge to our listeners and our We Are Sage community?
Yes, I love that you guys do this, and I am very excited / nervous to announce the challenge that I would like to impart. I am a big believer in we are also overstimulated at the moment. We're having too many stresses, stimulators and everything like that. And the main one, which you actually touched on earlier, is coffee for women. I would love to challenge listeners to go 2 weeks of caffeine-free life. And yes, it will be painful for those first few days. Go easy when you are titrating down. You know, if you're a 2 coffee girl, start by having 1 coffee for 3 days, then have a decaf coffee plus 1 coffee, and then go down a little bit more. Like, make it easy for yourselves, but eventually get to the point when you are full decaf for at least 2 weeks and see the difference in how you feel. Your regulation of your nervous system will be so much easier and you will feel brighter and lighter and less stressed and triggered across the day. I am very excited to hear how listeners go with it, and nervous because I know it's not easy.
You know what? I have recently gone off coffee. I've gone to decaf and I have found it's been the best thing for me. Like, concentration wise throughout the day, I don't have those crashes. So coffee's always been a social thing for me. But young women, if they don't drink coffee, is there an alternative that they can give up for this 2 weeks that you recommend?
Yeah. Okay. For the girls that don't drink coffee yet, I'm going to switch gears and say that I would rather they focus on just a 10-minute walk after one of their main meals. Now, this is something that I think goes 2 ways. This is a mental health supporter, you know, getting outside, going into nature and really honoring yourself, going for a walk is a good thing, but it also is incredibly important for regulating your blood sugar, which is what going off coffee is also doing, helping regulate blood sugar. So that's a totally lifestyle, non-caffeinated option for them.
Amazing. Well, I think they'll love that. Now, Lance, before I let you go, we'd love for you to sign off and leave your mark here at We Are Sage. It's a bit of a theme that we're going to be carrying through our brand is a love heart theme. So you'll be able to find, and listeners in our community will be able to find that in our journals that we're introducing, there's hand-drawn love hearts on the inner pages, and they're each drawn by the special women in our lives who have helped shape us throughout our lives and along our journey. So what we're going to do on the podcast is every guest is going to sign off with a hand-drawn love heart on our canvas, and eventually we'll fill it up, we'll watch our community grow, we'll be able to hang up the canvas and kind of reflect on just how many women have shaped our community. So without further ado,
Let's do it. What an honour. The first heart. Oh.
So you are the first heart on our canvas. You can do it as big as you want, as small as you want.
Right in the middle.
Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Thank you. For our watchers.
First of many.
Did you want to write your name on the inside?
Yes, I should do that.
Thanks, sis. Beautiful. All right, well, that's what we have for today, Lance. I want to say a massive, massive thank you for coming onto the podcast, being my first ever guest. I honestly could not think of anyone better to be the first guest, and I just know that our listeners are going to be taking so much away from today's episode. Even if it's just one thing, I think there's just so much value in what you've said today, and I'm so, so glad you were my first guest, so thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chels. I cannot wait to see where this goes, and also all the young women that are going to learn so much from you and your beautiful family and what you guys are building here.
Thank you. And if our listeners want to, follow along with you, learn some more, get some more tips online, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at by_Lani, and then you can also find me on my website anypoint at bylani.com if you'd like to book in for a consult or a workshop or anything like that.
Beautiful. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, please make sure you like this episode, subscribe, and be sure to share it with someone that you love or someone you think will benefit from today's guest. Make sure you follow us at weare.sage on our socials and let us know your favourite part of today's episode. Lastly, to every girl who's ever felt like too much, not enough, or completely lost, this space is for you here at We Are Sage, and I can't wait to continue this journey. So good luck with your challenge set by Lani. I'll be doing it as well, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you.